All right. Jack Jedwab is on the line. We have chatted from time to time, more often than not, on language issues. He's president of the Association for Canadian Studies. Jack, I want you to hear a clip. We had Jean-François Lisée on the show yesterday talking about these proposed tuition hikes for out-of-town, out-of-country, foreign students coming to English universities here. And at one point, when we were trying to understand why this was being done, is it about money? Is it about language? Jean-François Lisée tried to make this association between those students who come here from out of country or out of province and them not staying. And he pointed specifically to a study that you had done. I want you to hear his take.
I praise you, but Statistics Canada did a study with Jack Jedwab a few years ago, specifically on foreign and Canadian students coming to Montreal. And the proportion that does what you did is insignificant.
He's referring to Natasha, who said she had come here from Ontario, had learned the language, made a life, immersed herself in the culture. He's saying that according to the study, the one he cited that you did, she is a very rare example. Can you clarify this?
Well, according to the study, which was done for Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada in 2016, in terms of retention rates, it suggests that 1 out of 3 students from outside of Quebec that are at English language universities say they would like to stay here in Quebec. So that is sort of, that leaves you 65% who say they won't. So the glass is kind of 2/3 empty and 1/3 full. International students, 43%, Quebec-born students, about 70%. So the study was aimed at understanding how we could support retention, right? And so what I find fascinating in some of Jean-François' observations are, on the one hand, he will describe this phenomenon as, in the case of Natasha, as a minor phenomenon, but he seems to be interested in the retention of these students, since he argued that it would be good if the current government would provide more support for the French language, perhaps makes French learning mandatory on some level. So it seems he'd like these students to stay, and so that seems to contradict the current proposal the government has, which creates a serious disincentive for a lot of students to come here in the first place.
It sounded to me like he wanted Bill 101 to apply to universities, and I don't see that as being a way of getting people to stay here. I was saying, for me, I understand to some extent anyway, I'm the exception to the rule, but I persevered and I took courses, and I think if the government were to offer free courses and help with the integration and just make people feel welcome coming here, it would make a huge difference. In your studies, Jack, did people state what might make them want to stay, what might help them stay here?
Well, a high percentage of them did express an interest in wanting to learn French. They did say, although over the course of their studies, they didn't find the time to do so. They were sort of busy with their, if you like, coursework and exams, but did express their intention to want to do so. So if that interest is there, it would be valuable to explore it further. I mean, there are a lot of people, to be fair, across the country who say they like to learn one language or the other. In fact, everyone says they would, but they don't find the time to do it, and they don't have I don't think they're not invested enough in it to do it. But, there are enough examples that this study suggests of students outside of Quebec that would be interested in doing it, that it would strike me as though it's something we should pursue further. But instead of doing that, it seems like the government would rather create this disincentive for students to come here in the first place, which, by the way, as we know, will have a very devastating impact on Bishop's University in particular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we know about Bishop's. I mean, we've heard from Concordia as well. We had their chancellor on just the other day saying this is going to hurt them. It's going to hurt everybody financially. There's no question about that. I'm curious as to one, I think this was part of the study, Jack, as well, where it cites only 11% of international students, okay, so from outside of Canada, say they actually intended to return to their country of origin. I found that fascinating because you typically, or at least we got the impression from the government, that most of them actually would, and that's not what these numbers show. Am I citing that correctly?
Yeah, you are saying that correctly. And a lot of these students international students would like to stay here, not necessarily in Quebec. They stay in Quebec or elsewhere in Canada. We do see a fair bit of secondary migration. And to be fair, Quebec government's done some studies for amongst newcomers over the sort of first 10 years of their settlement here, showing that the ones that weren't able to speak French were disproportionately more likely to sort of secondary migrate, meaning they're moving to another province and not staying in Quebec. So clearly immigrants and others understand the importance of acquiring French should they choose to settle here. And I think that's true across the board. We need to find ways of making it more accessible to them. And on the one hand, Jean-Francois did suggest that, even though, as Natasha said, it was sort of a Bill 101 application to universities. But on the other hand, you've got this disincentive with respect to tuition fees. Having said that, by the way, tuition fees we know are higher at U of T and some other universities outside of Quebec. But this is a very drastic increase. So. Yeah,
and I find myself thinking, ultimately it'd be lovely if they did want to come and forge a life here. But if they don't, so what? They're still here. They're learning, some French. They're learning about the culture, and they're injecting money into the economy. And so even if they do leave after 3 or 4 years, hopefully they're presenting a positive.
Yeah. Well, where's the net, right? That's the question. So yes, they put money into the economy. Is the net a negative or a positive? I didn't hear that talked about at all.
No, and we're hearing the Conseil du Patronat, which is saying that this is not a good proposal because these students do make contributions to the economy. And we haven't calculated that. Instead, we're calculating it as some kind of equation between what they do with respect to the language situation and what the cost of that, might be in terms of whether it's a win or a loss for the universities. Or for Montreal. I did find it interesting that Jean-Francois mentioned something about making French the common language of downtown Montreal. I'm wondering, was he referring to Green Avenue, or which part of downtown did he want to apply that to? Was it Atwater, Guy, or Crescent? I mean, I've been frequenting Saint Denis more often. It seems they're actually pretty diverse Saint Denis these days. I don't know if you can sort of franchise these streets the way in a Bill 101 type of approach. So,
I'll ask him that when we have him on the air tomorrow.
I don't know what all these tourists would do with all these tourists who speak all these languages when they, go cross downtown.
Jack, I always appreciate you coming on with us to straighten things out. Appreciate the insight. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Jack Jedwab, president of the Association for Canadian Studies, and I will ask that.
Right? We need zone. This is a French-only zone. This street is French-only.
Tomorrow, Jean-Francois Lisée is back.